Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the Trump administration's invocation of the state secrets privilege to try to foil Judge Boasberg in his persistent effort to get information from them that would permit him to determine if they violated his order that he issued at the first emergency hearing. Okay, so very quick recap of the facts. The proclamation issues Friday night or Saturday morning. They begin to round up people, and the ACLU gets wind of it, gets a few of them as clients, and storms into court in an emergency hearing Saturday evening, 5, 6 o'clock. And during the course of it, Boasberg says, I want to put this on ice so I can determine it. Administration, I'm telling you, don't transport them, and if the planes are in the air, turn them around. And then about 3/4 of an hour later, he issues a written order that doesn't have that detail, turn the planes around. And lo and behold, the planes don't turn around. There's strong indication that they could have, and that administration officials were relying on a bogus notion that the planes had penetrated international airspace, which would not be a reason for Boasberg's order not to apply to them. But they don't do it, and Boasberg, since then, and we're talking about over a week, has been really like a dog with a bone, not giving up on the effort to find out what the hell happened, and then they violate his order. I wrote in my Substack yesterday that it's, I think, a really good thing that he's doing it. We really want to flush them out, and if they are of a mind to violate orders just knowingly, we know they're already sort of obfuscating or bobbing and weaving. But if they're going to do it knowingly, this would be the time to know sooner rather than later. And Boasberg's a very good judge and a very respected judge up and down the federal judiciary, including the Supreme Court, to really push the issue. And he has been pushing the issue. He's been pushing the issue, and at every turn, the administration has been basically bobbing and weaving and giving weird excuses. So we had the first day, they said, we did not violate your order, but that's all we're going to tell you. Then the second day, they proffered at his order a declaration, but it didn't give any more information. Then they started talking about, oh, this is a picayune dispute. Just give it up, Judge. And he's not doing it. And that, and then they talked about, we might have to invoke the state secrets doctrine if you persist. And he was, well, let's hear it. You tell me. I want to know. Tell me by a certain date certain, are you going to invoke the state secrets doctrine? Sure enough, yesterday they invoked the state secrets doctrine. Well, what the hell is the state secrets doctrine? It's been a doctrine recognized only in the last 75 years or so that basically gives a trump card, excuse the expression, to the United States to say, this is really hyper-classified information, and if it comes out, it could be terrible for the national security. Now, every time I've seen it, and it's been invoked fewer than 100 times, there may have been times that it's been invoked and we don't know, but even taking account of that, scholars estimate it's been invoked fewer than 100 times. This is not something an administration is supposed to do willy-nilly because it defeats the administration of justice. But what has happened in those times is the district court reviews the evidence in camera and then typically is very deferential. You don't want to be on the other side and disputing a state secrets assertion. District courts don't necessarily know, and you're taking in good faith a representation by the executive branch of, like, if this were to come out, it could really harm our national security. And so the typical process has been A district court looks at the evidence, says, okay, I recognize the state secrets doctrine, and that evidence cannot come into a litigation. Now, if it's essential for the litigation, let's say for the defendant, the case just gets dismissed. So there have been some very interesting, I've been involved in some of them, fights within the Department of Justice where the criminal division wants to go forward and do a case, and the national security folks are saying, no, we can't, no, we can't. And the Deputy Attorney General or Attorney General resolves the conflict. And if they invoke the state secret doctrine, it can often mean the end of the case. The prosecution dies. It's also possible to, if the evidence is really tangential to the main event, that you go forward, but without the evidence. And in very rare instances, it's possible for the judge to craft an alternative that the parties agree on that doesn't reveal the nub of classified information. Okay, that's what happens there. So this is a really weird invocation of, besides that it's always rare, it's a very weird invocation of it because the judge is the person who's going to be hearing this evidence. And the argument is that the mere in-camera review by the judge would undermine our national security interests because our allies or our adversaries would know that hermetically sealed information could be read by a judge. Of course, that happens every day. Classified information is read by a judge in order to determine what to do with it. That's basically what Judge Boasberg did for years as head of the FISA court. But so that's the notion. But they're saying his mere reading of it in camera, and then there might be media reports. Media reports of what? Well, just whatever that sort of refer to it and then could somehow reveal things, by some inferences and the like. So we have state secrets. Okay, let's take the jaundiced view for a moment. State secrets doctrine, besides being rarely invoked, has a checkered history, including a few times. The very first time it was invoked, or one of the first times, was a suit by a widow whose husband had been killed in some plane operation and was in the military. And when the facts eventually came to light, it looked pretty clear that there weren't state secrets here. What there was a big honkin' negligence case against the United States that they were covering up. And that's even in a normal administration, the concern that it's just too tempting to be able to play that state secrets card and not have embarrassing evidence come out. And, that's, however, a criticism of it, but not a negation of it, because it remains the case. You assume that the administration is working in good faith. And at any given time, there may be this sort of risk that they're covering up non-classified information, but you have the judge look at things, and judges will be very, very deferential in that setting, notwithstanding the sort of inherent problems. That's how it normally works. Now, keeping with the jaundiced view, look at the pace of things over the last week. The administration has been doing anything and everything it can to keep from making this information or providing it to the judge who's ready to review it in camera, starting with we just aren't going to do it. And then, all kinds of bobbing and weaving and recalcitrance, and then even tish-tosh, chastising the judge. This is so picayune, etc. And then, and only then, at the end of this, 6 or 7 various excuses, they come up with the big state secret card, and it has to be signed by Pam Bondi, and I think in this case, Marco Rubio. So, a person, Rubio, whose probity you wouldn't lightly think, that he would lie in this kind of setting, but Bondi, lies every day, and it still is on the bandwagon of all these politicized prosecutions in the Garland era. But there weren't any, and she has none that she can point to. So she's hard to trust, and especially now when this gang that is so worried about winning has gotten, they can't get out of Boasberg's clutches. So there's got to be a worry that they're playing this ultimate card, in bad faith, flagrantly falsely, just sort of, a little bit falsely, but they're not totally on the up and up. That would be a, just straightforward assessment. Even in a normal state secrets, that's what you worry about on the other side. But this is, I'm sorry, it's an objective fact. An administration going all the way up to the top that seems completely indifferent to lying. And that dynamic, by the way, the assertion of national security and therefore unreviewable evidence by an administration that is prone to lie. The very thing that happened here was Trump saying, I assert that these guys qualify under the Alien Enemies Act because they are, in my judgment, they're making a predatory incursion as a foreign country, meaning Venezuela. It's a wacky theory. He probably doesn't believe it. He may not even know it. He said most recently, I didn't do that invocation, even though his signature is on it. So when you combine that kind of willingness to say any kind of shit, especially in a battle, to always be the winner, with various doctrines that give them the ability to skate and not have to reveal, because notwithstanding the real cost to the justice system, because we credit them and agree in their good faith, it's a combination for abuse. So do we have it here? Very possibly. I'm not going to try to mince words. But that's the way it could go down. Now, I don't know how Boasberg will handle it because, as I say, typically the judge then reveals things. But it is true that it would be hard for him to write an opinion or whatever if this really is state secret stuff. He's ordered the ACLU, on the other side, to brief by Monday the assertion, oppose the effort by the administration to invoke state secrets. But man, oh man, that's a really hard thing to do. What are you going to say? It's just, the doctrine really doesn't permit you to say what everyone's thinking, which is they're lying, Judge. And then in terms of the circumstances that justify it, there's just a lot of law and sort of common sense that says you really got to be extra deferential to the administration. And that this is one way that Boasberg, who's been very careful and I think would have, solid support working his way up the federal courts, could get himself into trouble if he somehow refused to allow it. And the courts above him, both more conservative judges, but also we're seeing this in terms of the broader picture and whether it's okay for district courts to second guess the executive in that way. So possibly they actually get to shut him down now. Possibly it's in a totally dishonest way, and the good that was coming of Boasberg's review would evaporate and make it a bad missed opportunity to really sort of flesh out the administration. That's the world we live in now, and the administration that we are saddled with, and starting first and foremost with a really poor track record of telling the truth, which kind of infects everything. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.